It's strange that I'm making a video about discipline because this is coming from somebody who has been so inconsistent with a lot of important things in his life. A lot of people think discipline is something that you either have or you don't. The truth is, it's not really being born with discipline. It's about programming it into your brain. Like you can literally brainwash yourself to be disciplined. I had to do it, and at a point, the brainwashing kind of stops, and I just had to develop systems from what I've learned that just helped me do things despite me not feeling like it. So if you're watching this video and you're someone that has a goal, you have felt super motivated at one point, and it kind of just washes away and disappears, and the next thing you know, life has happened, and then you miss one day, and one bad thing snowballs into 5 different bad things, and then you're back to square one, and now motivation doesn't even work anymore. This video's for you, because I've been there. I've been undisciplined. I've fell downwards. And I've had extreme moments of intensity and consistency. And so I've studied seasons where I don't feel good. I don't take action. I've studied seasons where I do feel good and I take action. And there's a characteristic in both seasons that are very important. I want to share that. First, I used to struggle with discipline and just sticking with routines. I'll always make excuses, man. Are you kidding me? My favorite one was, I'll do it tomorrow. I got time. That was like my favorite excuse. I'll do it tomorrow. It's fine. One day won't hurt. One day turned into 5, into 10, into 20, and then I was screwed. I realized the problem it wasn't really my goals. It was my lack of discipline. And discipline isn't really understood to a degree, so I want to kind of try to define it. I define discipline as constant repetition and practice of something that must get done in order to achieve a certain goal. And so discipline isn't motivation per se, and it's good to define motivation too. I define motivation as a burst of emotions where you are no longer thinking logically, but you step into your emotional brain, so much so that you just move. You don't have to think about moving, you simply move. It's a thought, it's something external that happens, and the stimulus is a peak of emotion. Let's say you're angry, you'll run for miles, right? Let's say a woman breaks your heart and betrays you, and is sleeping with another man. My gosh, you will be animalistic. You'll run for miles. You'll work out for years. You won't stop. It's a burst of emotion, and you're not thinking clearly anymore. You don't even think, you just feel. There's a bad and a good side. I leverage everything, right? Let's say you and your woman, or any ladies that watch me, you and your partner, let's say you have an argument. You get emotional, you get sad, you get angry. 9 times out of 10, you'll say things that you don't necessarily mean, and you'll regret it. And so it's a hindrance, but you can leverage it and use it to its advantages. So if you feel something, you can just take action because you are motivated as a byproduct of feeling the emotion. For example, I use fitness a lot because it's the easiest thing to understand. And I like to use simple examples. I don't like to get too complex because I feel like the easier something is to understand, the easier it is to practice it. Let's use fitness for an example. Let's say going to the gym is very difficult for you. Now imagine a gun being held to your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your son, or your daughter. And if you don't go to the gym and work out, they're dead. How fast would you move? How easy would it be for you to move? Extremely easy, right? Because the gun held to their head immediately triggers something. So now peak emotions rise. You don't need to think yourself into motivating yourself. You don't need to think about how hard it is. You just go. It's a byproduct. The action is a byproduct of the emotions that rise, and the emotions that rise create motivation. Okay? And I've had to develop a lot of strategies. That's just one of them. But discipline, again, I define it as constant repetition of something that is required to achieve a certain goal. So if you want to achieve an X amount of dollars, if you want your business to grow, if you want to get in immaculate physical shape, if you want to learn, discipline is doing the work that's necessary repetitively and consistently in order to achieve that goal. So if I want to learn, what needs to happen repetitively and consistently is me reading, me learning. If it's not reading, I need to constantly learn and absorb information, right? If I want to become smarter, then I must learn, and I need to find a means to do so. if the end goal is to be a better speaker, the actions would be practice speaking more often. Learn what confidence is, the psychology behind confidence. It's not this fixed delusion, nor is it perception. It's inevitable truth that you've developed because you've done certain things, which gives you confidence. I am not confident when I go talk to girls. Why? Well, there's probably a stack of undeniable proof that you've been rejected. Of course you're not confident. I am confident when I go talk to girls. There probably is an undeniable stack of evidence that you are physically attractive and desirable to the opposing gender. And so it won't be difficult for you to do something, right? Whatever is hard for you to do, there's an undeniable stack of evidence that it's been hard in the past. Whatever is easy for you to do, there's an undeniable stack of evidence that it's been easy for you in the past. We go off that stack of evidence. And so we need to build that, right? And that's just an example. So let's start with understanding the psychology of discipline. It's not a skill. I'm sorry, it's not a trait, it's a skill. Always remember that. No one is born disciplined. Some of the greatest leaders and entrepreneurs and high performers, high achievers and athletes, they're disciplined not because they were inherently born with this trait. It's not something that's innate. It was developed over time. We need to debunk this ASAP because everyone says, I'm just not disciplined. You're not born with it. You develop it through practice, constant practice. Here's an example. We'll use professional athletes. They're not born with knowing how to train every day. I promise you they're not. They have built that discipline over so many years. NBA players have stood at the same line shooting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of free throws until they do it naturally. People that wake up at 4 have done it so long that it is now not difficult because it's something that has been deeply embedded in their psychology. It's wired in to where now it's just a byproduct of living. It's part of their cyclical nature now. People that wake up early, it's like, oh, I mean, I've been doing this for so long, it's just relatively normal. Your brain builds discipline differently. Every time you repeat an action, your brain kind of strengthens the neural pathways associated with it. So we can call this neuroplasticity for any neuro geeks and psychology geeks out there. The more you do something, the easier it becomes. Plasticity, neuroplasticity, right? The more I read, the easier reading becomes. And actually, the better I get at reading because I've done it so many times where I've developed skills and I have the ability to kind of skim faster. The more I speak, the better I become at speaking because now as I think, I can organize it instantaneously and I can communicate it quickly. I can articulate it. I can put together an idea coherently within a matter of seconds and I can speak about it and give it to you. So what has once become kind of chaotic and all over the place, I've developed a skill where I can take that, whatever's in my head is very chaotic, it's very messy. I pull into that. I reach deep into the depths of my mind where it's chaotic and messy. And I pull apart fragments of information that I try to piece together and I do it when I talk. As I'm talking, I'm reorganizing thoughts so I can give you a coherent understanding of what's happening. Be it an idea, a theory, or if I'm trying to teach you something, that's really how my mental model works and that's how I visualize everything as I'm speaking to you. I know you guys see these videos and there are no cuts. I kind of just press the button, record, and go. And I've had this ability to speak nonstop because I've done it before, right? But now it's more challenging because I have to give you as much information as I can. I don't want to waste your time. So I have to make long form videos and keep going and keep giving you value because to a degree it's very difficult. And I do that strategically. I've kind of found a way to do it, right? So neuroplasticity, simply doing something long enough, it gets easier and you just enhance it because you're like, well, I can do this differently now, right? For example, let's say you're playing a video game and you're fighting a boss. Let's say you beat the boss and you go back and fight the boss. And you go back and you keep fighting the boss. If it took you a minute to beat the boss, every time you go back and fight the boss, it'll take you less and less and less time because you know how the boss moves, you know how to counter it, etc., etc., etc. Right? So the more you do something, you're like, okay, it was initially difficult because of X, Y, and Z. Well, now that I've done it, I can develop strategies. So X, Y, and Z is no longer difficult, right? Imagine walking through a field for your first time, like your very first time. You got to push through all the tall grass. And if you just keep walking the same path, it becomes a clear trail. That's how habits work in your brain, right? You reinstate the behavior by just practicing it. And I always talk about how using reward as a way to reinstate the behavior is something that I enjoy doing. Whatever it is that I find difficult to do, if I can get it done, I reward myself at the moment I accomplish the task or achieve the goal or just get it done. Because the moment I present the award or reward to myself, be it a cupcake, a slice of cheesecake, or something, my brain says, good. I want to do it again tomorrow to achieve this feeling again so I can get this reward. I always use the example of how dogs learn best when you reward them, not punish them. Their behaviors will get deeply embedded and they will practice a behavior if you simply reward them. Don't believe me? Try it. Instead of punishing your dog, reward them for good behaviors. Don't punish for bad behaviors. Teach them how to perform good, reward the good. Don't teach them how to perform good, they do the bad, and punish them. Because now you're punishing them for taking an action and they're just abiding by their natural law, right? So humans are very similar in that way, where we're just abiding by natural law. And so sometimes we need mechanisms, safety net strategies that we kind of implemented. Think about a $1 million facility. Let's think of like Batman's facility. I guarantee you, no one can break in because he has systems in place. If you cross a certain line, boom, red laser. You cross a certain threshold, boom, spikes. Systems, mechanisms, and mental models are kind of like the spikes, the red lasers. So when you fall into a little hole, boom, you catch yourself. You're like, oh, wait. It's like a reminder, right? So think of your brain like that. And there's a lot of workarounds. And to a degree, identity drives discipline. So that's the next part. The role of self-perception is really important because your brain works really hard to align your actions with your identity. If you kind of believe you're lazy, your brain will find ways to justify it. But if you believe you're disciplined, well, your actions will start to reflect that. Now, belief is very important. If I say I'm lazy and I don't believe it, it means nothing. Yes, all the spiritual gurus, to a degree, I hear you. This is a magnetic force field where we magnetize and we speak spells upon ourselves. Yes. And I've evidently seen in my life that I've said that I'm lazy more times than not. And next thing you know, I just end up doing the hard stuff because it's here. This creates your reality. This can affect, but this creates it. So your voice is important. Yes, all my spiritual gurus and talk, well, you gotta be careful what you speak. You're affirming that into the universe. I get it. Look, I get it. And I can almost guarantee you, I can wake up and say I'm lazy for the next 365 days. Not believe it. The belief comes in here. I can say I'm lazy, and still do the hard things and still get up early. I have a stack of evidence to prove that point, right? But belief is important. If you say something and you believe it, you might be screwed, given that it falls on the negative side of the atom. So if you say you're lazy and you believe you're lazy, well, it's really hard to shift the belief. Try to tell a Christian that Christ isn't real, that God is a delusion. It's impossible. Try to tell an atheist that there is something that's out in the cosmos that's preordained the life and behaviors of all living organisms, and they're simply part of this systematic process that some omnipotent creator has created. They'll be like, no. When you believe something, it's really hard for not only someone externally, but you to rewire the inner workings of your mind. It's really, really difficult. Like you have no idea. It's the hardest thing ever. The hardest thing ever. So when you believe something, you create an identity and your actions are directly associated with that. Be careful what you believe. I wouldn't necessarily say be careful what you say. I can say I am a sorry loser piece of garbage, but if I believe that I'm a little bit better than that, if I believe that perhaps I'm X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't directly align with what I say, the belief is what matters. Remember that. It's not what you say, it's what you believe. And if you believe what you say and it's negative, you might be screwed. So your self-perception, your own perception of yourself is very, very important. How do you view yourself? Is your ego overly inflated? Is it deflated? Are you confident? Are you insecure? What is it? And so something you could practice, right? It's an exercise. You could write down a statement of who you want to be, right? We call these affirmations. I am someone who follows through on commitments. That means nothing if you don't believe it. And beyond belief, it means nothing if you won't do it. So just, if you are in the early stages of building and personal development and self-discovery, I've made a video where I don't necessarily diss the whole affirmation thing. I'm past that. And so it's annoying when I see people that are more advanced and intermediate in regards to personal development and dwelling inwards and exploring the abyss and just understanding the inner workings of who they are, what they are. And they're still harping on affirmations because they miss the fundamental aspects of all of these beginning stages and steps. Affirmations are fine. To affirm that you are a certain way is fine. But writing it down and saying it without belief in it means absolutely nothing. You have to have a belief so profound that even if you say the opposite of it, it doesn't matter because your belief creates a delusion. Some of the greatest people are delusional. I was delusional when I lost everything and I was broke. I was extremely delusional. I had nothing, for crying out loud. No money. I'm back to working at a gym and scrubbing toilets, and I'm like, I'm gonna make it. This is part of the process. I'm gonna make it. I can't wait. It's not gonna happen soon, but shoot, I'm gonna make it. I was so delusional. You have to be, right? You kind of have to be, because who else is gonna believe in your dream besides you? And if you haven't reached and grabbed that dream to bring it into reality, it's a distance away, and you have to be delusional because you have to be like, nope, it's here now. It's part of the game. So affirmations are fine. But remember that it's not about what you write on paper. It's not about speaking. You're not going to cast a spell upon yourself. You cast a spell upon yourself when you create the belief. The belief is everything. Remember, this right here, your brain creates the reality. Your voice can affect. But no matter what, your voice cannot affect that deeply if your brain has created, right? So that's kind of like the psychology behind discipline. So now there's a few steps to kind of brainwash yourself to become disciplined. First step would be to create a keystone habit. I'll tell you what that is. Keystone habits are small, they're powerful actions that set the tone for the rest of your behavior. They're very small, they're minute. Here's an example. Morning routines are an example of keystone habits. A consistent sleep schedule is an example of keystone habits. And they work because when you start your day with a win, your brain kind of gets a dope of dopamine. It gets a hit of it. It gets a big dose. That reinforces the behavior. Makes it easier to stay disciplined, right? Which is why I'm a big advocate for starting your morning early and doing something that's really difficult early in the morning that you really don't like. For example, I start my mornings early and I don't like working out in the morning. It's really annoying and it's really tough because I'm tired. And I'm half asleep, and the last thing I need is to load up 225 on the bar and start squatting and panting and sweating, and now my legs are cramping. I don't like it. But it's one of the hardest things for me to do, and it's the easiest thing for me to not do. Meaning, I can easily just not go to the gym and be like, I won't lose any muscle. But one bad thing will begin to snowball into 5. And so I don't want to take that risk. So I get it done in the morning. And when I get that done in the morning, I've knocked off the hardest thing for me to do. It's very hard for me to push myself to extremes in the gym. Because when I'm in the gym, I try to push myself to my extremes. I don't overtrain necessarily, but I do push myself and it hurts. But in those moments, I get intense focus and a reminder that you can do hard stuff. So then after that, everything else throughout the rest of the day is a piece of cake. Oh, you got to make 6 videos today? Done. Oh, you have to do X, Y, Z? Done. It's easy. I got the hardest thing out the way for me, which was waking up, 1, going to the gym, 2. Done. So I have momentum. The ball is rolling now. We'll call that a keystone habit. Start your day with a win. Do something to win so that you already get into the framework of, I'm about to conquer this entire day, right? Well, obviously, we got to start small, man. You don't just jump full force into this. Pick one keystone habit. Commit to it for about 30 days. Something easy. You can drink a glass of water in the morning. That's a keystone habit. It'll transcend to you drink a lot of water throughout the day. You could try just waking up at 4 every day. Like set an alarm for 4, wake up, like jump up and turn it off and go back to sleep, for crying out loud. That's a keystone habit. You don't need to set the alarm and wake up. Just set the alarm. You'll naturally be woken up and then go back to sleep. You don't need to get up. Those are keystone habits. This is how we start small, right? So I'm serious about this. If you want to start waking up early, and it's hard because in the morning it's so cold and cozy and you're so sleepy, and okay, set an alarm for 4 a.m. or whatever time you want to wake up. You can try this out. And when you get woken up, just go back to sleep. Turn it off, go back to sleep. And do that long enough, and your body will naturally kind of expect, oh, I'm about to get woken up by the alarm. And so the amount of energy that you have to kind of direct towards actually getting up significantly decreases over a course of time. It has to be long though. It has to be a long duration of this practice. And eventually you can just get up without a lot of focus or energy or drive. You just, because I'm so used to waking up at 4 to my alarm, right? So just try that because you expect something. Now that you expect something, your body and your mind start preparing for it. And I've noticed this, and anyone who has a routine in the morning, you'll notice it. If you set an alarm for 4, it's very strange because your body will shoot up, your brain will shoot up, send a message somehow, some way, as if it knows, like, I'll jump up at like 3:50, and I'm like, oh, I'm 10 minutes early, let me go back. But in those moments, you don't go back to sleep. You're like, oh, snap, I woke up 10 minutes early before my alarm. When you set an expectation, your mind and your body starts preparing for that expectation because you're like, okay, it's going to come, so let's just start preparing. That's how we work. Right? So small keystone habits. Second step, you can try to reprogram your environment. This is kind of important. Your environment matters just a little bit because it either helps you or it hurts you in regards to discipline. I mean, hey, look, willpower is limited, man. We are not all David Goggins. David Goggins is a beast. He's a whole nother animal, but it's humanly possible to do what he does. He has just tapped into something so deep that not a lot of us have tapped into, including myself. I haven't tapped into that. Since willpower is limited, your environment makes a big difference. So there's an idea that you become your environment. And I'd say that if you lack mental fortitude and you don't possess extreme focus, or you radiate at a different level of vibrational frequency and energy, sure, I say you do become your environment. But I'd argue that the more advanced you become, your environment molds to you. If everyone at work is pissed off and you're the happy one, eventually people will just be happy. They'll gravitate towards you. You'll begin to affect them. It's very difficult for you to be in a room full of mechanics and not learn anything about a car, especially if you surround yourself with those mechanics for 3 months, right? So your environment makes a big difference. But now when we say reprogram your environment, it's purposely putting things so that you are reinforced. Okay, so here's an example. If you want to work out, have your gym clothes already on or right there next to your phone or something. If you want to avoid distractions, use website blockers. Put your phone in another room, right? If you want to start taking your vitamins more often, put it in places where you're always at. So in the morning, by your cup of water. In the bathroom when you're brushing your teeth, in the shower, at the dinner table, right next to the rice. Who knows? This is what we call reprogramming your environment. You're purposely putting things in your environment so that you get this constant reminder, oh, I have to do this. Oh, this, right? It's a constant reminder, constant reminder. It's like an environment audit. Ask yourself, well, what's making it easier for me to procrastinate? Is there anything I'm doing that's making it a lot easier for me to procrastinate? How can I make my desired actions effortless? Like, the goal is to make everything easy. And whatever is enabling us to procrastinate, we need to try to get away from that. So if a TV in your room is making you procrastinate, hey, let's move the TV. If your phone keeps you from, or is the main reason you procrastinate, hey, I can't tell you just to destroy your phone, but you have to mentally try to just put your phone down. And so now we can get into, well, once I do put the phone down, once I do move the TV, once I do eliminate distractions, once I do get rid of the things that help me procrastinate, how can I make whatever it is that I have to do a little bit easier? Well, you audit your environment. You look at your environment and say, okay, I need to make this easier. So I have kind of like a step routine. I have a cup of water and a big 1 liter, 2 liter jug right next to my bedside, right there. And every time I wake up, I jump up, turn off the alarm, and I drink a whole cup of water. That gets me going. That's part of my routine because I want to drink water right when I wake up. And to a degree, that 1 cup helps me drink 2 gallons throughout the rest of the day. I drink a lot of water. So I drink about 2 gallons throughout the day, right? And I just do it. I carry a gallon everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I have a gallon. Everywhere I go, I have the gallon. I have the gallon. I'm auditing my environment because no matter where I go, I have a gallon. I don't care if I'm in the barbershop. I don't care if I'm at the gym. I don't care if I'm in the toilet. I have a gallon. So I can drink anytime, anywhere. It is constantly available to me. So all I have to do is drink, right? So try that. You can also try to leverage micro commitments or like micro habits. I love leverage. I'm a big fan of leverage. You guys know a lot of my frameworks, a lot of my teachings is tailored around leverage. Like, okay, what leverage means? I look at, okay, what's already bad? How can I possibly use it for good, right? So fear, I love this. And I always talk about it. Fear is extremely restricting. It holds you back, keeps you from doing things, keeps you from taking the leap, right? We are scared that we'll fail, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so it's restrictive, doesn't help. How can we use fear for good? And I start thinking, well, if I need to take action, what would I need to be afraid of for me to just do it? Well, something has to be at stake. So now I'm like, okay, which is why I use the whole gun analogy. Okay, if a gun is held to the people that I love and their heads, how fast would I just jump and move? Extremely fast, like fast. So now I've leveraged fear. So now I use it to actually benefit me as opposed to having it be there to just wreak havoc on me, right? So I love leverage. We always talk about starting small, and I never understood the power of starting small and compounding interest until sometime earlier this year, when I actually kind of started diving into it and I saw the results of just compounding over time. Small micro habits turn into macro goals and macro habits. And next thing you know, you reap up an abundance of whatever it is that you've sown. So most people fail because they try to change everything at once. Micro commitments, micro habits lets you start small and then build momentum without just giving up because it's like, oh, I gave it my all. No, you didn't give it your all. You gave it 1% and you actually did it. If you want to write a book, write 1 sentence a day. 1 sentence. If you want to go to the gym, just drive to the gym and drive home. Start small, increase the next day. I'm telling you, if you want to go train today, drive to the gym, then go home. Then tomorrow, drive to the gym. Walk in the gym, then walk out. Next day, drive to the gym, walk in the gym, go to the treadmill, turn it on, take 2 steps, go out. And then just increase day by day, by day, by day, by day, by day. And on a long enough time horizon, you win. People give up too early because we play the short time horizon. We look at life through this narrow lens, and we have a long life, given that we're going to be here for a while. I mean, if we're not, then, it doesn't matter anyways. We're dead, right? So given that we're going to be here for a while, you have time. It doesn't have to happen now. It will happen later. And when you acknowledge that it will happen later, it allows you to be just a little bit more patient. And so it's like, okay, repeating the same behaviors are a little bit easier because you're like, this is what it takes for that future version of me 5 years from now to come into reality. It's not supposed to happen in 6 months. It's not supposed to happen in a year. You have to assume that luck isn't real. And if it is real, then luck doesn't give a damn about you. You have to assume these things. And then you just focus on the actions that are required in order to achieve a specific goal. That's important. There's a psychological reference from Zeigarnik, and it's, your brain feels uncomfortable leaving tasks unfinished. Once you start, you're more likely to continue. Here's an idea. Let's say you have something to do, like you need to go clean your car, and you've procrastinated for a whole month. How draining was that month knowing that you had to do something, but you just kept putting it off? It's draining because every day you have this constant reminder, you still have to do it. You still have to clean your car. You still have to clean your car. You still have to clean your car. Now imagine the day you do clean your car. You do that, Next thing you know, you're trying to do the next thing you have to get done. And you do that, next thing you know, you're moving on to the next. Because once we finish something, it's like, what else? I finished it. I got that done. I have more things to do. And so getting things done becomes so much more rewarding than just putting things off. We have to move in a way where taking action and finishing things are a lot more convenient, one, and rewarding, two, as opposed to doing nothing. Right now, if you're comfortable and if your life is kind of a mess, similar to how I was, trust me, I get it. It means you feel like there's more reward from doing nothing. Once you do something difficult, or you just do the things you have to do for a long enough time period, what happens is that becomes so much more addicting and rewarding. It's addicting to grow as opposed to this addiction to being comfortable. I promise. It becomes so much more addicting. So much more. And something else you can do is you can do rewarding your discipline, not necessarily the outcome, which is why I spoke about it earlier, how we can reinstate a behavior by reward. Our brains are wired to seek rewards. If you celebrate big milestones, you'll kind of lose motivation because it's like, okay, I will only celebrate if X, Y, and Z, which is fine, right? Like if you have the mental fortitude to stick it through all the way until that huge milestone is acquired and you accomplished it and congratulations, you conquered it, cool. But if you reward just the act of showing up, you can reinforce the habit. Like, okay, I actually showed up today. But you have to be careful because it's a thin thread that you walk. If it's not enough and you are inferior and you know you could do more, but you choose not to, then what it creates, what this reward cycle creates is this reward of complacency. Like, okay, I will reward myself for mediocrity as opposed to I will reward myself for hard work. So you have to be careful. It's a tactic, but it's a thin line you have to walk. All right. An example would be, well, after doing something like going to the gym, I mean, eat a snack. You want a snack? You want some chips? Go eat some chips. Just be careful. Make sure in the gym you give it 100%. If you just literally showed up to the gym, you walked into the gym and then you ate chips, what you're doing is you're saying, hey, it's okay to just not try that hard. I'll see if I can do it a little again tomorrow. No, the whole point of this whole reward system is you have to put in some effort. Earn the reward. You have to do something that's deserving of the reward. Because if you don't do anything that's deserving of the reward, next thing you know, you just rewarded yourself for doing nothing. And so it becomes normal to do nothing because you'll be rewarded for doing nothing, which isn't good, especially when you want to do something. Okay? So now that we talked about that, I want to talk about rewiring your mindset with repetition. What does repetition do for you? Repetition helps you get exposed to this constant reminder that you are or you will or this must be done. Hence the whole affirmation thing. Affirmations help reprogram your subconscious mind. And it's really important to understand this theory and this idea of the unconscious mind and the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. I'll do it quickly because that's a whole nother discussion, but your conscious mind is here right now, awake, alive. This. If you're watching this video, you're conscious. Your unconscious mind is when we sleep, in the dream state, unconscious. You can't really explore it with free will. It's there. It's this hidden little void of, it's a complex conglomerative mechanism of a whole abundant of weird stuff. It's perplexing and it's just a big old thing. Your subconscious mind, this helps me understand. I'm not saying this is the truth. I see the subconscious mind as the middle, where fragments of unconscious, and remember, what makes up the unconscious is everything that you've seen, smelt, heard, seen in this life, in previous lives, etc., things like movies you've watched, things you've heard when you were a kid that you don't remember. It's all here, and it's stuck here. Emotions, thoughts. So if you develop 1 million thoughts a day, 1 million thoughts are just right here in the unconscious. And if the next day you develop 5 million, those 5 million stay right here. So it's a lot of stuff. The subconscious is when fragments of the unconscious seep its way out and try to become conscious. So let's say an idea. Let's say in your unconscious you have an idea of, I hate myself. That thought will seep its way out. It tries to, and then it tries to manifest itself consciously, meaning then you start feeling depressed and down. But if it can't make that entire travel, it stays stuck right here in your subconscious where it's kind of lingering. It whispers. Next thing you know, your mood is down a little bit. you start becoming a little bit more negative. You don't necessarily hate yourself right off the bat, but it's like a slow transition towards whatever has seeped through. So affirmations help I wouldn't even say reprogram your subconscious mind, but it helps implement more things into your subconscious mind, and so your actions and your behaviors become a result of whatever your subconscious mind is made up of, right? If you constantly say, I'm disciplined, maybe one day you will be, but I really believe it's part of belief, right? But I don't want to diss affirmations because I've done it in my early stages, and to a degree, I mean, it helped. But what really helped was the belief in whatever it was I was affirming, right? You can write it down, you can say it, you can look in the mirror and say it, but remember that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter how many times you say it. What matters is your belief in whatever it is that you're saying, whatever it is that you're writing, whatever it is that you're doing. You can visualize. I'm a big fan of visualization. Plus, I have a very vivid imagination. I do it very often to not only understand people, create or enhance my empathy for the world, but I like to see my life in a few years, and visualization helps. Crazy because your brain doesn't really distinguish between real and imagined experience to a degree. All of this, I mean, if you kind of see the functionalities of our biology, all of this is an illusion, right? Our eyes send certain signals to our brains that creates X and Y and Z, and I won't get into that, but your brain can't really distinguish real or imagined, right? We'll put quotes on that. Who knows what's real or imagined? But to a degree, if your brain can't distinguish it, then visualization helps you, especially if you do it successfully. It helps you believe that whatever is a dream or whatever is not possible is possible. Close your eyes. Just picture yourself. How do you feel after you got done with the workout? How do you feel once you are where you want to be? How do you look like? How do you speak? How do you smile? What's your energy looking like? What clothes do you wear? Who's by your side? Who's the person that you've fallen in love with? What do you enjoy doing? What do your days look like day to day? Imagine that, and then feel that. Part of visualization is you have to feel it. Don't just visualize for the sake of playing a movie in your head. No, because when you play a movie, your emotions are being provoked. Horror movie, I mean, fear. A romantic movie, I mean, kind of like pain, sadness, and euphoria, right? Comedy movie, I mean, joy, right? So when you visualize, the whole point is to create a movie in your head, but feel what that feels like. Like, wow, it feels amazing. And then your heart starts racing really hard, really quickly. And then next thing you know, you're breathing a lot more quickly because it feels so real, because it's almost like you've brought it into reality, because your brain can't tell the difference, right? It's almost here. If you're trying to save money, I mean, visualize yourself not spending money and making smart decisions and investing your money and 3xing your money, 5xing your money, 10xing your money, and then feel how you feel. All right, so that's visualization. You can also replace negative self-talk, which is I'm just teaching these methods because they would help some people, but I do a lot of negative self-talk. So I know it's counterintuitive, but I look in the mirror, and if I haven't done enough, I say, you are a sorry scum, low to the earth piece of garbage. And what it does is, it does not destroy me. It pushes me. Not everything, quotes on it, bad has to destroy you. You can leverage it. Remember my example of leveraging fear? Fear is bad. I've leveraged it. It is now power. Same thing with self-talk. Self-talk to the outer world, on the surface, bad. I leverage it. The one demon I have on my bedside that just creeps over me is the demon that goes, you could have done more today, Thompson, but you didn't. You could have went harder. You could have done more. You could have learned more. You could have did more, but you didn't. Look at you. And it creeps over me. And to a degree, it can linger and make you feel disgusting and you give up, or it can linger and say, well, okay, you're right. Let's keep going, right? And so I leverage a lot of things that are bad, and I'm like, okay, if it's bad, it doesn't have to be bad. Bad is subjective. How can I turn it into good? Also subjective. So rather, I just say something that's prohibiting my growth and restricts my growth, there is a method to use this to propel me towards achieving even more. How do I do it? How do I systematize this? How do I change the inner workings of this idea of this, or this concept, right? So negative self-talk. On the surface, what it does is it sabotages discipline by reinforcing limiting beliefs. If you want to shift it, you just do the opposite. So I'm lazy. You're like, oh, I'm happy. It goes negative self-talk, And shifting it goes hand in hand with positive affirmations. There's a lot of different ways. You can either do that or you can do what I do, which is I leverage it. I feel unworthy, but I want to be worthy, but I feel unworthy because evidently I've seen that today I haven't done enough. And so it propels me to go harder the next day. Your call. I want to present two options for you. And then you can also create systems to sustain long-term discipline, which is very important. Having people that hold you accountable, that's very important. I remember moments where I had to be that person for someone, like, hey, get up at this time, get up at this time. And then now, surprisingly, I have someone in my life that holds me accountable, and it's magnificent. The person encourages me to just be the absolute best version of me in almost every way. So this is where you kind of get vulnerable. Share your goals with someone that you trust, that you believe is a little bit further along than you, and you're inspired by this person. And so what happens is, by natural law, as a byproduct of this inspiration, you want to behave similarly to this person. And so you start taking action to become better because that person is better than you. Remember, have someone hold you accountable if they're better than you. If they're worse than you, probably won't work out that well. If they're right neck and neck with you, probably won't work out that well because you need someone up here so that you can look up to, so that you can climb and keep climbing to reach them. If you're above somebody, it's like, well, you're comparing yourself to someone that probably is inspired by you. So you need to grow. I mean, you need to look this way, not down here, not lower, right? So accountability, having someone to hold you accountable, a partner, a coach, whatever. From there, we can do something with your schedule. So time management is something big. There's an idea called time blocking. I'll kind of read what it is. Time blocking removes decision fatigue by pre-scheduling your tasks, right? So a great way to implement it is at the end of each day, plan tomorrow's tasks in blocks of time. Treat these blocks as non-negotiable appointments. So it's setting up the next day, basically. It's preparation for what's to come the next day, so that the next day gets executed with flawless precision, with accurate decision-making capabilities, and you just go, pew, everything that you have to do, straightforward, focus, done, and you kill it. I would say that's important. It kind of goes into scheduling, time management, because sometimes our schedules are spread all over the place, and so 30 minutes doing something nonsensical could be used to do something sensible, right? As opposed to you just BSing and taking your time and throwing it away. You can use it. And to use it, you have to have kind of deadlines. So tomorrow, let's say you have a whole bunch of deadlines. Your day's going to go X, Y, and Z. At 9 a.m., you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. And so you start feeling the pressure of having to do it, almost like an appointment that you can't miss. And so you're more inclined to just speed up whatever it is that you're doing now, move quicker, find a way to move quicker. Your brain starts working away. I got to find a solution. How can I move quicker? How can I move a lot quicker because I can't miss this deadline? And so now what has happened is you've met the deadline and you killed two birds with one stone. This got done, and this only got done because it's a byproduct of me trying to make this, right? So set up appointments, set up blocks. At 3 p.m., I got to do this. So it's like, okay, from now to 3 p.m., what can I do in the meantime? And so you start saying, well, I could probably do this. And then at 3 p.m. comes and you just go do whatever it is you have to do. So time blocking is really important. Setting up your next day is very important. Structuring your day all the way through. I do it mentally. I don't need a phone to do it. I do it mentally. Now, unless it's actual appointments that are like I'm meeting with people, or I have to do this, or I have a scheduled call, or I have to do something with my videographer or something, stuff like that. But to a degree, if I don't really have big plans where I'm meeting with people, I structure everything in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wake up at this time. It'll probably take me this long to work out. After I'm done working out, I'll probably go home and I'll eat a can of tuna and some pickles. After that, I'll probably make some content. Once I'm done making all the pieces of content that I want to make, then I'll probably go read. And I will read until this time. And after that time, I might just hit the sauna. And if I have some more time, I'll revisit a book, right? So I structure my days like that. I have a low resolution image. And so as I go through my days, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, okay, it's about time. Boom. And I move on to the next tasks. I don't have a lot of tasks that I have to accomplish. A lot of what I do, guys, is I learn. A lot of my time is dedicated to working out, becoming the best version of me, so I can set an example for you guys. I make content so I can teach you guys. And when I don't make content, I'm learning, because I have to keep learning things to keep teaching. If I stop learning, a lot of the things I say will continue to be a little bit repetitive. And so I try my best to read a lot, integrate new pieces of information, and have it mold my psyche in a way where I present myself to you guys as a different man every time, so that you learn something new and challenging every time, that you grow every time you revisit my YouTube, right? So that's how my days look. That's literally how it is, right? So again, that's time blocking. The next thing you can do is something called a 2-minute rule. It's really effective because if a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. Larger task, just commit to just starting it for 2 minutes, if that's the case. So let's say you have to send an email. It will probably take less than 2 minutes. Do it now, as opposed to procrastinating. We need to understand that procrastination is always more draining than simply doing whatever it is that we're avoiding. Because instead of every day it just sucking energy from you, you just get it done and you forget about it, and it's truly off your head. It's like, I did it. So just don't procrastinate, because you have to understand it feels good in the short term and it's destructive in the long term. As opposed to if you do it, doesn't feel good in the short term, but in the long term, it creates everlasting peace because you don't have to worry about it anymore. Right? So whatever it takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. And then let's say, for example, you have a large task that you probably can't do and it's really difficult, then just do it for 2 minutes and see how you feel. And if you can extend that, then extend it. Right? Let's say you have a project you really need to work on. It's going to take more than 2 minutes. It'll take hours. Okay, just start for 2 minutes. Once you start for 2 minutes, maybe then you'll be more likely to do it for another 2 minutes. You'll be more inclined to be like, okay, let's shoot for 15. And in doing so, you just achieved more simply by starting with 2 minutes, because it's very possible for you to do something for 2 minutes. Very possible. And the likelihood of you wanting to do it again or longer increases because you're like, oh, it wasn't that hard. I was just procrastinating. I thought it was hard, but I only thought it was hard because I needed an excuse to not do it. Right? So now we talked about Keystone habits, reprogramming your environment, auditing your environment, eliminate distractions, and set yourself up to where you're constantly reminded of having to do something. We started with micro habits. We talked about reinforcing discipline with affirmations, visualization, and rewards. That's really beneficial. Trust me, it helps. Understand that discipline is the bridge between who you are, who you want to become. It's literally the bridge. It's not about perfection either. It's just about showing up every single day, day after day. And it gets hard. I get it. But trust me, it becomes a lot easier to show up because it becomes so addicting to do the things that you know has to get done because it's so rewarding, as opposed to you doing nothing. You doing nothing is not that rewarding. You will become addicted to the reward of, wow, I want to keep growing. I want to keep doing things. It takes a little bit of time. And then it's even harder if you don't see growth, which is why I say play the game long. You might not see growth immediately. If you want to see growth immediately, and if part of your motivation and your intrinsic drive is to see immediate results, let's say in the gym, it'll be really tough. But let's say you don't care about seeing results now. All that matters is in 5 years, you want to be this type of person, X, Y, and Z. Then you understand that in order to become that person, you just have to boil it down to the actions you have to take and how often it has to be repeated. And if you can do that for 5 years, you'll pull that person into reality, right? Think of yourself as a rag, a wet rag. You need to squeeze every drip of potential out of this rag. That's you. You are the rag, and the water's potential. Squeeze it. Squeeze all of it. And whatever potential you have, like, do it. It's humanly possible because there are people out here who has had it worse and has done it better. It's just difficult for you to navigate because I've been there. I get it. Start small. Start small. And it's good to define things. When you define things, you can break it down into practical, easy to understand actions to take, and next thing you know, you just get it done. If I say be disciplined, you're like, okay. Now, if I say, hey, whatever is really hard, but like you know it'll 100% help you, let's do that first. What would that be? Oh, we'll probably go to the gym. Okay, well, let's go to the gym. Go to the gym. Yeah, get changed, go in the car, step on the gas, put in the directions, walk into the gym, go to the treadmill. And so now we break it down to practical steps that you can take as opposed to just be disciplined, be motivated. No, well, it's like, what do I have to do? Right? I hope this video helps. That's all I got.